Hello friends, I'm Christopher. Welcome back to A Garden Named Bill. That's week number 22 for us out of our about 30-week growing cycle. And it's the beginning of September, and it's a really interesting time in the garden. Like the beginning of last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago, kind of marks the beginning of fall for me. Technically, of course, the autumnal equinox is like 3 weeks out, but there's a tree that starts turning colors over there, and then acorns start falling from my trees, and then squash start to ripen, and a whole bunch of other things, and they're like big signs of fall. So we're in early fall time, which means lots of things are in harvest mode in the garden, including all of the raspberries that you can see here. All the primocanes are just loaded full. I've been harvesting it for about a week, and I think we'll probably get another week and a half or 2 strong weeks out of it. I'm thinking I'm going to get maybe 4 kilos worth of raspberries, but we'll see. Anyways, that's enough waffling. Let's jump right into our overview shot. Well, for the sake of showing you just how awesome and thick the raspberries are, we'll start out over here, then move ourselves on over. As we kind of look this way, this is a hard place to start. Of course, this whole side here is bare because my second planting of peas didn't happen, but over there, my various gourds and squash things are coming through. As you can see, that one's sneaking through the top. This time last year, this whole thing was just covered with greenery, but slow start this year. I have an idea for making sure that this gets all covered in green next year. My mammoth sunflowers, I have 3 of them that opened. This one up here is going to open in about another week, so that wasn't a total loss. And then beans are still going strong. Well, I'm kind of braving the bees this time of day, but to start off your overview shot, or not your overview, your highlights, just check this out. You can see how loaded down these are, especially when you start to get some that are ripening. I'm thrilled. What can I say? I am going to freeze a bunch of these, and then my grandpa has a couple old apple trees that have small, kind of lame green apples on them. I don't even know what species they are, but they never get bigger than a baseball, and they're really tart. They're great for deer, but I think that they will taste good, kind of like my gooseberries when mixed with raspberries. So I'm going to be making some more jam in a couple weeks once those apples get harvested. And in the meantime, we've got lots of antioxidants going into our yogurt in the morning. We've got beans, the magical fruit. The more you pick, the more they grow. Pretty much. Kind of an interesting shot here. You can see I do have another mammoth over here that's about to open up. This is forming the head now. It's not going to be as tall as its brethren. I'm eager to see how big of a head and then how many seeds these smaller ones produce. I'm just happy that something came of it. Aside from this sunflower at the end of the tunnel, I've got all sorts of squash and watermelon and things that are setting on. I do have squash bug problems, but at this time of year, the plants are so established that it kind of doesn't pay to deal with the squash bugs. They can just eat one of the squash and all the leaves, and I still get a lot of things to harvest, so I'm just letting it go. Well, unfortunately, I can't express the same happy laissez-faire comment with my corn. They've been ravaged by squirrels, I'm assuming. Chipmunks probably don't weigh enough to cause this kind of damage, and it's the ones that are closest to the fence. The corn heads are just ripped to shreds, and a lot of stalks have fallen down. I'll be saving the stalks and drying them out because they make good winter or fall decor, but the ones that are further away from the fence, I don't know if the squirrels bother to climb them or what. Some of the corns have been torn up, some of them are still saved. I think I'm going to harvest the popcorn now, this week, even though the kernels will be smaller. They might not pop. I really don't know. It's a disappointing end to the most disappointing crop of the garden this year. Next year, these are going to get their own dedicated raised bed in the plans that I have, and I'm going to have netting over them, so that should prevent any squirrels or chipmunks from getting to them. I think the hardest part about corn next year, if everything goes to plan, will be avoiding slugs getting them as they pop out of the ground. Fingers crossed, we'll see. So for the most part, I think corn just ended up as a harvest time decoration for me this year. I wanted to thank anybody who recommended that I transfer the mint from the end of the raised bed into a barrel. It took the transfer poorly, and I don't care because, you know, these things are like weeds, and the roots that I put in here will bounce back just fine in the spring. In fact, maybe I'll bring you in, but there are a whole bunch of new shoots coming out of the middle where the root system is. So the established plants did not survive the transfer, but the root system did. And anybody that has mint knows just how quickly this grows. Should be fine next year. The asparagus bed and the strawberry bed is doing really well. All of those strawberries that I transplanted late season, for the most part, took. And the runners established themselves. So once the leaves start falling, I'm going to be mulching this bed. That's really the next thing that I do in here. And then we just eagerly await the spring. I'm excited to see how big the asparagus heads, you know, the crowns pop, not the crowns, but the shoots. I'm excited to see how thick they are popping up. Probably won't be harvesting anything next year. Again, I got another year before it's 3 full years in the ground before they're thick enough to harvest, but whatever, it's fun. This bed is growing and it feels good. It's been kind of ridiculous how productive the tomatoes have been this year. I've made a ton of salsa, I've put them in eggs, and now I'm watching videos on canning because I have them in such abundance that I want to store them. I've never really made tomato sauce or canned whole tomatoes, so I'll be experimenting with that in the next week or so. They just keep producing, which is really, really nice. This year's experiment with tomatoes was single stemming them to climb up, and then I've done some trimming experiments. They've all worked really well for pruning out unnecessary growth and diverting the attention to the actual tomato production. I'm really pleased. This bed next year, I'm going to have 5 tall stalks, 1 cherry tomato, 1 Roma tomato, 1 tomatillo in the middle, and then probably my orange moonglow tomato, and then something else. We'll see. I don't want to buy any tomato seeds. I'm just hoping that friends will give me some of their seeds that they're saving. And by friends, I mean you guys. Thanks, Jim, Midwest Gardener. He offered to send me some of his cool pepper seeds. I haven't responded to your email yet because I'm a turd, but yeah, I definitely want them. And I'm excited. With the success I had this year from the peppers and the tomatoes that I started myself, I know I can do it next year, so everything is going to be started from seed myself. I did really well this year in not buying a lot of things from the greenhouse, and next year it should be all me. I'm starting to dry out and save seeds from like my spaghetti squash and some of my novelty peppers here. I don't know, man. I got 2020 on the brain. In this bed here, where it was half full of potatoes, a couple things to note. The zucchini that I planted for fall harvest is growing well. I think it's growing quickly too. I just don't know if there's enough time left in September and a little bit of October for it to thrive. I think it's going to. Oh hey, my dog Moose is here. Pause a second. Oh hey, the puppy and the baby decided to come out and visit. Hi, hello. Anyways, I hope there's enough time for the zucchini to do something. And also, I planted some seeds that were dated for 2013, some wax beans. 2 of them ended up germinating and surviving. They're about 5 inches tall. We'll see if anything comes from them for the rest of the season. Otherwise, I'm going to be thinning out my Egyptian walking onions, and I'm planting garlic there in another 2 weeks, let's say. Okay, that sounds good. Great. And I got a couple cucumbers to harvest from this area too. There's my big old sunflower. It's pretty big. There's my hand next to it. Unfortunately, the sun is right behind it now, so it's probably just going to look pitch black. But it's huge. And then the other ones look like this. Again, the sun is behind them, so it's hard to tell. Sorry. I don't think I can get it to focus. But they've opened, and they look beautiful. Just take my word for it. Well, can you kind of... Yeah, you can kind of see the glory of this head now from over here. It is astonishing. I can't end the video without making some sort of comment about my spaghetti squash, which were underwhelming to start and then absolutely exploded. I think I've got 9 different spaghetti squash on the vine right now, and I've already harvested one, and it was spectacular. We cook these and freeze them and eat it throughout the winter. I love spaghetti squash. If you've never experienced spaghetti squash, I highly recommend it. You cook them, and then they've got like long spaghetti-like tendrils. They're perfect as a vegetable substitute for pasta, hence the name spaghetti squash. But you can kind of see a lot of them are looking like this. This one is ready for me to harvest it, and it's taken up a lot of space in the garden, but I'm glad I put it in. I put it in mind knowing that this is kind of an underproductive spot. I'm on a slight hill, a lot of weeds grow here, those thistles, so I knew that the vining plant would cover those and squash out some of the weeds, which it definitely has in all the space behind me. So in years to come, sorry about the train, in years to come I really want to take advantage of this negative space here a little bit more. To that extent, I have planted a new species of raspberry. So all we've done is turn the camera around now for your point of reference. While Moose is eating some weeds next to me, this withering looking doodad is a different kind of raspberry. Champagne raspberry is a good way to describe it. I don't know what the species it is. Essentially, it's a light white with a little hint of orange coloring, or like a pale pink coloring. It's a really mild tasting and beautiful looking raspberry. The intent of this, it'll look gross for the rest of the year, but the root will be well established. I got a lot of fruit. I got this from a friend who lives in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm going to grow this along this side of the front to take up this 2.5 feet worth of walking space that I have from the beginning of the fence to this first bed. After having the beds for 2 full seasons, I know that I really don't use this path for walking much, and when it comes time to harvest, I should be able to harvest from the other side and just get in the bed. So I'm going to make use of this space and grow more raspberries over here, which will, it's a good use of the negative space. You always want to grow more in less space, and I'm excited to do that. Then we'll have 3 different types of raspberries once this hedge comes to maturity in another 3 or 4 years. And then along this fence here, 1, 2, 3, we've got the 3 bare root blackberries that we transplanted this spring. Those should only multiply and establish, and I'll continue them along this fence perimeter. So 3 of the 4 border walls in the garden will be all thick with berries. And then one more thing over here, you might have seen Moose just walking in this bed a couple frames ago, but the only thing from the late season seeding that I did here that took, thank you Moose, are the radishes. These are doing really well. The carrots and the lettuce ended up not coming up. I think next year I'll put down some potting soil on top and plant in that. I probably should have added compost to this before I planted. Like I said, everything but the radishes just didn't succeed. And I'm sure there were other factors, like Moose stepping on them. But who knows? Who knows, right, Moose? Oh, I just got some of his blubber in my mouth. Gross! So it's a good time in the garden. It's kind of on autopilot from here on out. Just gotta harvest my gourds and raspberries and tomatoes, and then I start at the end of this month and in October just mulching the beds, getting them prepared for winter. It was a good year overall. I'm really pleased, and I know there's more, a couple more weeks left in the garden, but I'm already having this feeling of closure as things are wrapping up, and I'm planning ahead to next year. Are you in that phase too, already looking ahead and kind of looking at this year with, teary eyes of days gone by? Or am I just sentimental? Anyways, how's your garden? Thanks for watching mine, and I love you guys. Take care. Happy growing.